Okay, take 3. Trying to find just a tiny little space where a tourist is not trying to come up on my shit. And just give me a little bit of space. Personal space in the country is very important. People don't understand that when they come from the cities. I try to be compassionate. Okay, so we just went through a huge storm here in Mendocino, and it was intense. I had probably 5 days without electricity. I did have water and a gas stove. So it was definitely a challenge. By day 4, I was, kind of losing it. And then I just realized, it's strength, and this is a test. And you can do this. And it's also perception. I want the electric back on. I don't say power because I'm never out of power. I'm always powerful. So remember the words we say when these things happen. So my electric did come back on day 5, and it was amazing. And I realized day 4, when I was freaking out for a moment, that I can change my perception, and I can think about this in a totally different way. Like, I was completely off the screen for days, and that felt really good. And I also, there's a lot of manipulation through the screens, and I can feel when you get away from it and then you go back to it, you're like, wow, it's more than just what you're seeing. There's a sorcery going on, digital sorcery. And, it's maybe hasn't been this strong always, but it has been, there's a specific intent behind all our technology, and governments, and manipulating the minds of the people. And at first I was fooled by this, and then I realized, oh, this is purposeful. And government and tech decided to create a big alliance, and we saw this in 2020, how aligned they were. And so, we really have to pay attention to our minds and how we're thinking about things. I run into people all the time. They're like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm like, are you doing that because social media, you saw on a podcast, you should do that? Because it doesn't apply to everybody, especially health issues. There's this whole, I remember seeing, it's kind of when they updated Instagram, all of a sudden I started seeing Keanu Reeves and all these people talking about, oh my God, my brain, I was going like crazy, and then I realized my dog gave me parasites, and I had to, it's not my greatest Keanu Reeves, but dude, I had to cleanse my brain of parasites. And what it does when you do that parasite cleanse, which can be amazing, and yes, people get a large amount of parasites, but there's also mental parasites. There's also all this electricity. I just went 5 days without electricity, and it felt so good. Pardon me. It felt like amazing in my brain. As soon as I turned it back on, I could feel the difference. These electric waves are not beneficial for you. So, we have to take that into account as well. If you're just killing everything in your body, trying to have a parasite cleanse, and not doing anything about mental parasites with the digital stuff, you may end up throwing yourself off even more, because some of the parasites are doing the cleanup job in our bodies. So we shouldn't get rid of all of the parasites. But how do you delineate who's good and bad when you're taking this product or that product, or even ivermectin, or just to make sure You really feel it in your body that you need to do that, is what I'm saying. Discernment. Discernment, so important. And we are living in this age of information, and there is so much coming at us. Oh my gosh. And so it's good to be aware of, your inner channel of your body actually is giving you information. So it doesn't align with you because everybody's doing it, because it's popular. Is that for you? That's important. And this time of year, we're moving into, we went through the dark time, which is amazing because I was actually in the darkest time during that time, having no electricity. So there was, this what I've been doing for the past year and a half is, since I started studying astrotheology, I started to move with the sun and the moon, really pay attention to the sun and the moon. I pay attention to where the moon is every day. And I also I have a place of viewing the height of the peak of the sunrise and the moonrise. It peaks at 6 hours, is about 6 hours is the peak height. So it goes to a certain height, and then it'll start to descend. And I have a place that I marked in the south between these two trees in front of my house where I just always check the height, because the height tells you what sign it's in as well. Once you figure out that Cancer is the highest placement, which is way above your head, and Capricorn is kind of mid-sky, and it's the lowest placement. So in between is all the signs of the zodiac, and each represents a different energy too. And this doesn't have to do with constellations at all. It has to do with a system, a cycle that you can depend on, that you can trust every day, with the sunrise and the sunset and the moonrise and the moonset. So there's an amazing field of study, and I'm going to be offering a course beginning spring, because that's where the momentum is, when the sun starts to change and becomes closer to us, because we're in the northern hemisphere. It's where I'm talking from, and the sun has moved out to the, oh my God, these guys. The sun has moved out to the southern hemisphere, so it's far from us. And now it's going to be getting closer to us, and by this spring, there is a serious momentum that is happening. And this momentum creates so much growth, and what has been teeming under the surface just really starts to burst forward. And when you pay attention to these subtle energies, it really is grounding, and it really is, it's something that you can trust in this reality. And that's what I'm focused on. And after doing that for over a year, and being into astrology, being into the planets and all this other stuff, but really not realizing I was using it as a crutch, and it wasn't satisfying, because it's, again, other people have interpreted this, so we study it from these other people, and it's like, does Saturn really mean that? I just started to question. And I started to question prediction astrology. And I think prediction astrology is not good. I think you take it with a grain of salt, but I think the mind takes it and does something else with it, and creates stress, and it creates anxiety around the future. And I don't want that. So I'm tuned out of the whole prediction of astrology, and paying attention to the sun and the moon and how it affects my chart, because it's totally unique to everybody. So I'm going to be offering this course that works with your chart. It's going to be just 3 to 4 people in a group. We're going to go through the year, we're going to be in the meet couple days before the new moon and a couple days before the full moon. And so the scheduling thing can be tricky, but I'm working in small groups because my ancestors told me to start that way. And I'm going to be giving you information about the cosmology according to the ancients, and the flow of the sky wheel, like how we move through the cycles and how you can compare it to your chart. So it's going to be very unique and interesting, and there's going to be a lot of information about sacred geometry in there as well, because this is a sacred geometrical reality we live in. The sun moves in the shape of the infinity symbol throughout the year. The moon does it in a month. It is an amazing thing. The analema. The analema is so cool. And, this type of stuff has been lost over time. So this wisdom needs to come forth. And, I've been experiencing it, and I really think it could change a lot of the way we trust and move through this reality, because we are living in a resonant reality. Like attracts like, and that is a basic principle here. So whatever your frequency is, if you're resonating with some information on the internet, you will be creating more of that. If you're resonating with the fear and terror, the weather terror that's going on, you will resonate with that, and your vibration determines your reality. Now, another thing I offer is a way to clear energies, disturbed energies from the body. Different organs, and like the nervous system, the lymph system, the circulation system, they take on energies through time. Could be a birth trauma, it could be lineage stuff, it could be lots of reasons why. We don't really want to get too much into that. We just really want to change the energy. So I work with this old alchemical way of using shapes to change energy. And this goes back to the Great Pyramid and all these amazing structures on the earth. The shape of them, the placement is very purposeful, and it's there to change the energy. Now, the Great Pyramid sits on an intersection of many ley lines. Just as we have meridians in our bodies, there are meridians in the earth, on the earth, and they create energies. And that's why a lot of these structures were created. So we can go to these places for healing or upliftment, clearing. So there's a way that was created by Ibrahim Karim that works with this understanding of energy and vibration and changes it to a higher vibration through the energy of shape, through the law of resonance. It's amazing. Let's see, I have a healing story. I worked on a dog who's been nervous since they got him, and just a lot of nerve work, and starting to get, disease from the nerves. And turns out, heart was disturbed, circulation was disturbed, the lymph system was disturbed, and the nerves. So I cleared all that, one session, and the dog is calm. So, do we have to keep going on with living with these, animals that are so on edge, and they've always been on edge? You can change that energy with animals really easy. And I worked on a child who was having constipation issues since birth, and I was like, well, I've definitely been able to change that with children. But, mom kind of mentioned to me later, oh, by the way, she has night terrors, because I asked if she had night terrors and nightmares, and she does. And I looked at her system, disturbed lymph, disturbed nerves, disturbed circulation. Those three basics are crucial for good feeling in the body, to feel good and grounded. And and these systems go into every part of the body as well. So I did a bunch of work with her, and no more nightmares. Now that's amazing. I personally grew up with a bunch of nightmares every day. Every night I was being tortured by a spirit, and my parents didn't know what to do. They thought it was, they tried to address it physically. And I finally got rid of it years later, like almost in my 30s. But I'm telling you, children are vulnerable to this stuff, to the energies and entities around us, more so than we are. So we really have to pay attention. If your kid's having nightmares and night terrors, there could be a bigger issue, which doesn't have to be a big issue. If you change the energy of their system, then these entities can no longer feel good in their bodies and around them. So I know it's creepy to think that, but we are open energy systems. We are these open, our brains are, pulling in all this information. And, I just think about, God, if I had a clearing from this, biogeometry work when I was a kid, I could have avoided a lot of torture. And I was being haunted. It was terrible. And I was being manipulated too. So, and I allowed this thing to come in because I did not understand boundaries. My parents should have been, they were paying attention to the spiritual aspects of this reality. And they weren't. They had no training. But I was born with a lot of, shamanic characteristics in my chart, so I was especially vulnerable to that. And I'm grateful for empowering myself to clear it. It took a long time to realize it, and then once I did, it actually didn't take that long to clear. And I did it through boundaries, so, and a lot of ceremonies and things like that, but just intention. So will and intent is really important in this reality as well. And I have to say, I did another healing on a woman who's in her 60s. She just did some test at a chiropractor that told her she was in fight or flight. And she's like, well, what does that mean? And, it turns out she has a double Aries. Aries moon, Aries rising, and double Sag, which a lot of planets in Sag, which is also, that's a lot of fire. First of all, she's running a lot of fire in general. So, but then the chiropractor, gave her this test and he didn't really have a solution to what she should do about it. He was just like, oh, here's what it showed, which is weird. And she was talking to me about it, and I was like, well, yeah, you've had accidents, you've had surgeries, trauma. It's held in the body. It's held in the spine. It's held in the nerves. And I did one session with her nerves. I cleared the nerves of the head, cleared the nerves of the spine. Aries rules the head and spine, so that is interesting. And then I did the lymph system and circulation, these three major systems, one session. She was like, I feel so much calmer. She couldn't believe it. It's like we start living with the way we feel, and we don't realize that we can actually change that. So that was a beautiful, beautiful story, and I'm going to do more on her organs as well, and the other systems in her body, and get into the vertebrae of her neck, because she had a accident where she broke her neck. So that's the whole thing. And if you go under anesthesia surgeries, you go out of body, and you actually are super vulnerable to energies. And hospitals are not a safe place for to be doing that, actually, because there's a lot of energies around. They don't clear hospitals of energy, and maybe some people do who work there. Secret sorcery, not sorcery, but secret alchemists. that understand and clear the energy. But in general, you're going under. You want to replenish your field, restore your field. And we all have a toroidal field around us. So, and that is like a bagel or donut of energy that's around us. So it's just like super interesting looking at the metaphysical aspects of this reality, because it's real. It's real, and we live in a sea of energy. It's all around us. We need to practice spiritual hygiene. We have to be, I did have another healing story with a woman I've been working with for a long time. She's in her 70s, and she went to a solstice ceremony. I was sitting next to a woman who was really disturbed, and she came home with stuff as some kind of hitchhiker, and she was literally a couple days later like, I feel like all the air is being sucked out of the room. She was having a hard time, and she was going to call 911, and I ended up working on her, and she felt tons better. And it was just an energy that was taking over her system. And she's had a lot of work with me, so she gets really clear, because the more work you do, it centers your energy, and then you feel clear about boundaries. So even if you've let something in, you do feel like, what the heck is this? And I affirmed to her that that could be what it was, and she was like, yes, okay, because we don't want to acknowledge that these energies are here, but they're here regardless of your acknowledgement. So pay attention to your energy, pay attention to the voice in your head. Who is that? Do I have a negative voice? Get into the inner world. All right, well, we're coming on New Year's, which is also another psyop, because we're in the middle of winter. It's not a time to start new things or resolutions or any diets, any of that shit. So remember and prepare for the new year, which is the spring. That is when we begin the new season, Aries season, right? Don't be fooled. And don't, you wonder why these resolutions never work out or whatever. It's like, that's the worst time to do it. We're still in the dark time of year. Even though the sun's out, it's farther away. So get some light into your eyes, especially if you're in the northern hemisphere. The light it's not harmful, even at the middle of the day. It's a beautiful thing. And I thank you for all those who have been paying attention to my little riggedy rants, and wish you all blessings. And if you're curious about the work I do a 20-minute consult over the phone, or you can learn more about it. But I'm having a lot of success, and it's actually not super involved. And it works remote because we're fractals, don't forget. Okay, bye.